Hello everyone. For those of you who follow the channel on social media, this video will come as no surprise. I've already posted photographs over there as a sort of teaser for this video. And this is basically some footage I shot at a recent event at the hangar of Huey 509, which is a UH-1 helicopter based near me, which was actually used during the Vietnam War. I didn't actually cover the Huey in this video. I have covered it previously. This is, I think, the third event I've attended at the hangar. And this time, my friend Matt went along with me. He collects NVA and Viet Cong equipment. So I had a display of Australian kit, as I normally do at these events, and Matt had his display of VC and NVA equipment. So we're going to have a look at the display that we put on together, each side of it basically, and have a look at what we were wearing as well. As I say, if you'd like to know more about the Huey, one of the pilots, Neil, very kindly did a guided tour of the Huey 2 camera in a previous video, and I'll put a card in the corner of the video here if you'd like to go and watch that and learn a bit more about Huey 509. As I say, in this video we're going to have a look at the display that Matt and I put on at the hangar, I think 2 weekends ago now, or a week and a half ago, something like that. So trying to think when I'm actually going to be uploading this. Anyway, we'll get into the main part of the video now and have a look at the displays. Just run through a quick overview of the display here. You can see an overall view here. On the right hand side we have my kit on display, generally rating to Australian forces in Vietnam. You can see web equipment here, uniform. To the right here we have the SLR on display, a pair of GP boots showing the steel inner sole, the jungle hat, drawers, rifle cleaning kit, pair of thongs there, flip-flops of course in British terminology, and the waterproof. And then we have a couple of items lent to us for the day with the M79 grenade launcher and the M60 machine gun there. You can see Matt here talking to some of our visitors. As you can probably tell, we were battling the wind, at least for the first half of the day. It was very, very windy, unfortunately. For a closer look at the small kit I had on display here, you can see we have some period beer cans here. The small kit laid out on the home-built shelves. You can see the details of the insect repellent and so forth here at the top. A couple of magazines on display which I had to tuck away due to the wind. The pocketbook there too. Period radio playing music. And then we have photographs here with the Instamatic 104. Wash kit items on a period towel there. And then to the right we have some handbooks and so forth, which are quite interesting to look through with people for those who are interested. And then to the right of those we have some American rations there, mess tins, hexi stove, mug and so forth, and cutlery at the back there as well, of course. Looking at Matt's side of the display, we have a VC mannequin here, VC equipment displayed there, and various weapons, forms of headgear, grenades and so forth laid out on display here. And then we have another VC mannequin here with slightly different equipment, as you can see. Interesting, the pistol hung around the neck on a lanyard there. As you can see, quite an interesting detail of the way pistols were sometimes carried. And then further weapons and so forth displayed over here, as you can see. And then a North Vietnamese Army hammock displayed off to the side as well, which managed to survive in the wind quite well, thankfully. And then to the back of the display, Matt had some ration items on display here, obviously some mess kit items as well. Various propaganda posters, which are quite interesting to see. See currency, identity cards, and then some interesting booby trap items here. So you have punji sticks, a toe popper mine made of an empty 50 caliber cartridge case, and then the Vietnamese language little red book, Mao's little red book, which was quite interesting to see as well. So I'm just going to quickly run through what I'm wearing here. Obviously, as you'll have seen on the display, I've got sort of infantry kit and so forth laid out, so I thought I'd wear something a bit different for this display. And the kit I have here is of a corporal in the Australian military police serving in country, probably in an urban environment, so in Saigon or elsewhere, perhaps at Vung Tau, rather than in the field. And military police units did operate in the field to some degree as well, but I thought I'd go for something a little bit smarter, all the insignia and so forth. So first of all, starting at the top, we have the headgear, which is the Australian slouch hat with the military police cap badge, which you can see up there. So, and a close-up of that here, as you can see. So that's obviously worn on the upturned brim of the slouch hat. The basic uniform is a standard Australian green uniform, standard Australian green shirt and trousers made in a fairly heavyweight green cotton drill. Unusually, insignia is worn. It's not very common to see insignia worn by troops in the field in Vietnam. You tend to see shirts with no insignia at all, but military police did wear insignia, wore their rank insignia, and also commonly wore the Australian Military Forces badge, which we have on the shoulder here, and indeed shoulder titles as well. You can see here up on the epaulette we have a green slide with the Metal Australia shoulder title there, and one on the other epaulette as well, as you can see here. And this is one way these were worn. They were worn in other ways as well, but this is one example of the way these shoulder titles were worn. And of course we have the brassard, the MP brassard worn on the arm here. Obviously the sort of standard prior to the Vietnam War, the standard military police brassard was simply an armband worn around the arm with the red M and P on it. And then during the war, Australia would introduce something with the design we have here, which is basically a copy of the US design for military police brassards. It is, however, worn on the right arm rather than the left. US MPs wore it on the left, Australian MPs wore it on the right, and the lettering is still in red on black rather than white on black, which was the norm for the US, was white on black, so there's a difference there as well. In terms of equipment, I'm not wearing much equipment, as you can see, but we do have the pistol belt here, and this is a US M1956 belt. The fittings have been polished somewhat, removed the blackened finish, bright brass rather than the blackened brass. The blackening has simply been removed, which was quite common to see at the time for military police. And we have a US holster, pistol holster round on the hip here, should be used to carry the Browning high power pistol. As I say, you see a variety of pistol holsters used in Vietnam. This is a US black leather example. You also see the Canadian 1951 pattern used quite extensively, and you see other sort of similar patterns of leather holster as we have here, but not US issue examples. You also see those that have been made to this pattern but for the Australian military police. The belt is blackened with boot polish. That's another point to note here, and it's common to see the Canadian 1951 pattern holsters, which are green webbing, were also blackened with boot polish as well for use by Australian military police in Vietnam. Finally, we'll talk about footwear, and we have here a standard pair of GP boots. These are the black leather combat boot introduced during the course of the Vietnam War. I had brush polished these this morning. They're now covered in dust and so forth from during the day, but they were generally kept fairly clean, obviously by military police serving in an urban environment. And examples of the time, photos of the time show they weren't bulled, but they were kept clean and polished. So we have a pair of GP boots there of footwear. And the uniform I'm wearing here is based on photographs dating from the later 1960s, so that's what I'm going for with this sort of set of uniform and equipment here. Thought it was a little bit different. Obviously I've got the kit on display, so I have swapped and changed and worn the kit that I have on the display as well to some degree, but I thought this was something a bit different, and it would be an interesting thing to wear and talk about at the display. And I have to say, it's been a good day. I've talked to a lot of interested people, and overall it's been a good event to be part of. So hopefully you found it interesting looking at this, and we'll move on to the next part of the video now.
So I'm wearing the uniform of the North Vietnamese Army, the PAVN, very late in the Vietnam War. So this is 73, 75, about that period. You do see the green a little bit earlier, but this is a later uniform, so I'm doing the late war period. So we've got the uniform, two-piece, shirt and trousers. The shirt is usually worn tucked in, and is usually worn with a small trouser belt. This one here, this is a Chinese-made one. Made out of sort of faux plasticized leather with a brass buckle. The shoes, in this case, are the canvas boots with the rubber sole and the rubber lower. These are Chinese made, and they were used by the Vietnamese. Chinese had similar boots, but these have a different tread. There's a more substantial tread than the Chinese ones. So that's the basic uniform. Headgear, in this case, is the soft boonie hat, which differs from the American style ones in the makeup of the crown. Rather than having a flat plate on the top, it's got several pieces that come together at a point, so it's slightly more rounded, it's not as flat topped. Nice wide brim, a little cord so you can hang it off your neck if you don't want it on your head. Around my neck, I've got a piece of old parachute silk. This was a thing that held back from the Indochina War. The Vietnamese soldiers used captured French parachutes or scavenged French parachutes as camouflage cloaks, as shelter covers, or as little neckerchiefs like this. That's the basic uniform. Over the top of that, we've got the Cheek-on chest rig. This is a 3-cell, 1 magazine in each, cleaning kit in there, or bandage, as the case may be. And in this one, I've got a bandage, but you would normally have, oh, sorry, tell you a lie, extra pocket. That's got the oiler in. It's interesting to note that I'm equipped as a rifleman, so I would have had a Type 56 AK. The Chinese oilers only have one nozzle because they only have one component in. Because Chinese AKs are blued rather than painted black, you don't want the, I think it's the alkali component, because that eats away at the bluing. So that's that. Let's say 3 mags, 30 round mags for the AK. Other equipment is fairly light. I've got a 4-cell pouch for grenades here, although I'm missing one. These are the Type 67 stick grenade, derived ultimately from the German M24s, which the Chinese were given, excuse me, early World War II, but adopted and adapted for their own use later on. On the other side, around the back here, I've got a canteen. This is in its own little canvas holder, just with a simple tie to hold it shut, 2 flaps, similar to the Allied style ones, but for the Vietnamese canteen. The straps pull through there, the canteen comes out. It's very similar to the Chinese Type 65 canteen, I think it is. Simple tin, enamel, Bakelite lid, little plastic, little rubber bung in the top. It is currently attached to the canvas cover, so you don't lose your lid. And if I can get it out, there we go. This has a little cup with folding handles on the back. The Chinese ones don't have this. The Chinese ones are carried on a simple, almost like a Pattern 37 carrier with a shoulder strap. They don't have the cup, and they're hooked into the carrier, so it's a nightmare to get and have a drink out of them. That goes back in there. The only other piece of equipment I've got on me is right at the back here. This is a little plasticised fabric dressing case. I think I've got 3 or 4 little field dressings in there under the tabs. So it's fairly light load. You would sometimes see PAVN soldiers with backpacks, of which there's one on the display there, which are a 3 outer pockets, 1 large central pocket, and that would carry any of the rest of the gear you would need. As I say, this is late war, so the war is in a very mobile phase at this point. Most of the attrition and sort of the backwards and forwards guerrilla movements have ended. There's now the big attacks on the south, pushing towards Saigon, and the eventual climax of the war in 1973. So that's my equipment for a PAVN soldier late in the Vietnam War.
So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. As I say, if you want to see more of the helicopter, do go and look at my previous video. It's not changed since Neil very kindly ran me through all the details. So I'd say, in the interest of time, well, talking to the public was the main reason for being there, and there were quite a few people interested to talk about the display. So there wasn't really time to go and film the helicopter again. And obviously I would just be duplicating work I'd already done there in terms of getting a rundown of the details of the Huey. So if you'd like to see more about that, obviously go and look at that video I linked earlier on in this video. But hopefully it's been interesting looking at the displays here. If you have found this video interesting and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those 2 methods. It really is greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down in the description, and I'm going to keep on calling it Twitter, not calling it X. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.